Hello, everyone. I am calling to order the regular meeting of the Ross-Town Council Thursday, October 9, 2025, 6 p.m. Has the agenda been posted?
Yes, Mayor, it has.
And are there any changes to the agenda?
None.
Thank you. Number 3, we welcome the presentation from the Ross Schools 5th grade class regarding their water testing project. Matt, did you want to introduce this?
Sorry, was that for me?
Yeah, do you want to introduce this?
Sure. I'll just briefly, Ms. Meyer reached out to me as a STEM teacher at the high school, and her class last year did some analysis on the creek that they wanted to share with the town and the council to the results of their analysis on the water.
Thank you, Matt. Go ahead, 5th grade. Thank you.
Oh, sorry, you have to come to the mic because everything's recorded. So yeah, the students can come with you.
Is this good positioning?
Thank you so much for having us here today. I'm Andrea Myers. I am the former STEM teacher across the street at Ross School, currently teach 2nd grade to one of our council members' kiddos. Thank you so much. These are our 6th graders, and they made this video in 5th grade. They did some water testing. So they're going to introduce themselves, say a few words, then we have a short video we'd love to share. And at the end, we'd love your input on whether this data on our Corte Madera Creek, if it's helpful, if there's any further info we could provide as the current 5th graders test, and how we might share this information with our community. So gentlemen, how about each of you introduce yourselves, then you can say your parts.
Hi, I'm Max Salter. I'm a 6th grader at Ross School.
Speak into the mic.
Hi, I'm Max Salter. I'm a 6th grader at Ross School.
I'm Anders Vilhauer. I'm a 6th grader at Ross School too. I'm Nicholas McGonigal.
I'm Cal Ramus.
I'm Luke Farrow. Do we talk first?
Oh, okay. Hello, Ross Town Council. Thank you for inviting us here today to present our Corte Madera Creek water quality video.
Our video is about the Corte Madera Creek in 2025 and spring of 2025. We did many tests on the water in the creek, such as temperature, dissolved oxygen, coliform, nitrate, phosphate, pH, and turbidity.
The good news is that our test shows that the creek is in pretty good condition, but there is a coliform bacteria in the creek which comes from animals' fecal matter, so we could work on keeping our animals like dogs out of the creek.
I don't think our audio on our computer works because then the recording works. Right, Cindy? It doesn't, right? Because otherwise the share. Oh! It's coming out of it. Okay. Thank you, Roberta. Oh, good.
Even though our planet is mostly water, only about 3% is fresh water, and only 1% of the Earth's water is suitable for drinking, and even that has to be cared for and treated. The goal of our service project is to learn about the Earth's water and how best to take care of it. started by testing the water in the Corte Madera Creek to see what factors affect water quality. We tested for dissolved oxygen, turbidity, pH, phosphate, nitrate, temperature, and coliform. We performed tests in the fall and again in the spring to compare results. After testing the water, most of the results were favorable, but some tests showed that we need to do a better job of taking care of our creek. DO is the amount of oxygen that is in the water. When DO gets high, that's a good thing. Pollution, poop, and dead organisms make DO low. If DO is high, fish and other animals are happy. And if they are low, they could die. Humans can keep them high by making sure no pollution gets in the water.
We are the turbidity group. We check on how dirty the water is.
In September, it was excellent, and the same was in April.
People can help by not letting their dogs run through the water.
Or else, animals might not have healthy water to drink, or fish and plants might die.
We are the pH group, and we measured the acidity of the Corte Madera Creek.
The level of pH are affected by how much sewage, fertilizer, and mining runoff gets in the creek. One of the most common reasons for high pH levels are car cells.
But humans can get the levels of pH back to normal by not letting sewage into the creeks, not using too much car soap, and limiting the use of fertilizer.
This test is very important because if the pH level is even just slightly off, the organisms in the creek may suffer.
Hi, we are the phosphate group.
In the September test, we got 1 ppm parts per million, which is 4. Excellent.
And when we tested the Corte Madera Creek this year, nothing changed.
Phosphate gets in the creek from
Fertilizer, runoff, sewage, and mining.
the impact of this chemical on plants and animals is death or sickness.
One way humans can fix this problem is by not using excess fertilizer or mining too much phosphate rock.
We are the nitrate group. We tested in September and April. In September, we got 5 ppm, which is fair, and in April, we got the same thing.
Nitrate gets into water by pet and human sewage, fertilizer and agricultural runoff, as well as decomposition from dead animals and expositions that animals release. This is how nitrate gets into our creeks. All fish that have high amounts of nitrate in them are affected, but if humans drink water with nitrate, they can get blue baby syndrome, which lowers oxygen levels in infants. This is the impact on plants and animals.
Humans can stop too much nitrate by not using fertilizer too close to the water, not putting sewage in water, and making sure pets do not pee near the water. This is how humans can fix not too much nitrate in the water.
We are the coliform bacteria group, aka the poop group. Sadly, both tests in September and April were positive. This poop from animals to cats and dogs. This is bad from animals like fish and deer because it leaves in it. This is not ideal because these animals need this creek water to survive. So if one of your pets poos in the creek or near the creek, you have to clean it up.
Pick up your pet's poop if it's near the creek. Also, don't poo in the creek.
We are the temperature group. My name is Olivia. My name is Livia. In September, the temperature was 18 degrees Celsius. In April, it was 16 degrees Celsius. If the temperature gets too high because of the sun's UV rays, then the plants and animals could die because of the O2 levels that get too low. Humans can help by planting native plant species alongside creeks, such as rainbow trout, algae, and much more. We must be diligent in conserving water, using it wisely and taking care of what we have by not only caring for the water, but by protecting the environment and its natural resources around. By testing our local creek water, we can provide the community data that can help improve our practices and habits too, hopefully. better the quality of our environment and water quality.
Water is life. Use it wisely and keep our waterways clean.
Thank you so much. Gentlemen, nice job on that video last year. So our question to you, council, is with these results of our Corte Madera Creek behind us, the fifth grade current class is considering continuing the project. So I don't want to put you on the spot. So if it's a follow-up email or a follow-up communication, the question for you is this data helpful at all? Is there any additional testing you'd like us to add to the repertoire? Or do you have any other input for us?
Can I just say thank you? That was a great presentation, and I learned a lot. And one thing that I would like to suggest is perhaps the students and the town clerk can collaborate on a Ross Review article that could be published in the November Ross Review to summarize the data and gently remind Ross residents that they desperately need to clean up after their dogs, especially if their dogs are pooping close to the creek.
Wonderful. We can absolutely help with that.
Thank you. And other comments, council members?
Oh, I was just going to say that you could, we have our town manager and our public works director, and outside of the council, you can always submit the data to them to review, and they can give you comments back on how it's helpful. And I know our public works director leads a creek cleanup every year that just happened. I know some of the students participated in that. And so maybe that could be a part of this, is taking some of that analysis into account and what they're trying to clean up in the creek.
Fantastic. Thank you all.
I thought the video was good. The presentation was really excellent. I think the students did a great job. And I think not only did we learn, but I bet they learned something. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And then the one comment about the dogs is that the water that you're looking at, it does come from a ways away, so that it may not be all of the Ross families who aren't taking care of their dogs. It can be any of a number of families in towns upstream. We've always known that the creek isn't clean enough to swim in, and your nice project shows us that, yes, that's probably still true. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. Number 4, council member reports on meetings and conversations. Anybody have anything to report?
Mayor, I just wanted to say that having town council members in front of the post office on town council meeting days continues to be a great opportunity to hear from residents about the things that they like, the things that are going on, the things that they wish were different. It's really a great opportunity to hear from the residents. We will continue to keep a running tab of the issues that come up and make sure we share them with the town manager and you.
Thank you. Thank you, Terry and Elizabeth, for being there today. I'm sorry I wasn't able to be there. Hopefully I'll be there in November. Number 5, open time for public.
I have a report as well.
Okay, Matt.
So I sent a letter to the council regarding Marin Clean Energy, and I wanted to just continue that there's a lot of work that's being done. The executive committee met at Marin Clean Energy on Monday to try to form a finance committee. And they had the votes to bring it before the board as 2 options to try to have a finance committee. There's been a lot of outside interest in sort of the governance and lack of governance that has occurred at Marin Clean Energy. And the agency had reported an operating loss for the fiscal year last year that has continued into the first quarter. So there's some serious issues going on there, and I just want to make sure that all the council members here are aware of that, because I think that residents will start to become more aware, and you will receive questions.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, moving on to number 5, open time for public expression. This is limited to 3 minutes per speaker on items that are not on this agenda. Is there anyone in the chambers who would like to make public comment? Cindy, anyone online?
There are no raised hands online, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Number 6 is the mayor report. That's for me. It's wonderful to see so many Ross residents preparing for emergencies. On Saturday, September 27, on the Ross Common, 10 dedicated Larkspur and Mill Valley first aid volunteers trained nearly 75 Ross residents in basic first aid skills, including stop the bleed, CPR, the use of AEDs, and Narcan administration. Trainees were provided with stop the bleed bags, boxes of naloxone, fentanyl test strips, and one-way emergency breaths face masks. Volunteers also checked the status of their Alert Marin signups to activate the ringtone Emergency Bypass On. Thanks to the Ross Property Owners Association for organizing and sponsoring this event. On Monday, September 29, many residents attended the Zone Zero presentation called Science, Resources, and Inspiration at the Marin Art and Garden Center. Creating 5 feet of non-flammable, defensible space called Zone Zero around our homes and structures greatly improves their chances of surviving a wildfire, and new landscaping designs make it possible to create this protective barrier attractively. Mark Brown, Executive Officer of the Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority, cited a recent UC Berkeley study demonstrating Zone Zero's effectiveness. Data from recent wildfires show that homes with defensible space had a much greater chance of surviving than those left unprotected. The link to the study will be published in the Ross Review next week. April Owens, principal of April Owens Designs, showed several examples of inspiring Zone Zero landscapes featuring plantings mixed with accents of inflammable surfaces, including stone slabs, pavers, and gravel in a wide variety of colors and sizes used to break up a fire's path. Owens said metal is also helpful for fencing and gates to separate wooden fencing from structures, and also for planters. You can learn more about Fire Smart Landscaping with California native plants at aprilowensdesign.com and at the UC Marin Master Gardeners site, Marin Master Gardeners, Marin Fire Smart Landscape. Nicole Marcucci, Ross Valley Fire Department's newly hired wildfire preparedness coordinator, described ongoing efforts to clear vegetation for evacuation routes. She stressed that property owners need to maintain vegetation along roadways to allow residents easy evacuation, and firefighters and their equipment good access to our homes and properties. Thanks to the Barbara Winship Firewise Neighborhood Group for organizing this event, and the Town of Ross and Age Friendly Ross for sponsoring it. Next, number 7, Council Committee and Liaison Reports. Council members, anybody? Terry?
Yes, I just wanted to say that I was very lucky to go to the ribbon cutting ceremony for the Transportation Authority of Marin celebrating the completion of the Marin-Sonoma Narrows. If any of you have driven up to Sonoma and driven back, it's 3 lanes. Although I must say that there's a lot of controversy about the high occupancy vehicle lane that may be slowing traffic going and coming. So they'll still have to look at that. But the lanes are open, and it took 16 years. So.
Anyone else? Thank you. Number 8. Oh, sorry.
Is there any update on the paramedics?
No.
They held a closed session about the lease, and their comments are now with our legal team, but it isn't ready for us yet.
Number 8, Staff and Community Reports, Ross Property Owners Association. Is that Mr. Mascaroni? I saw you standing in the audience.
Hello, Ross Town Council. Good evening. Good evening, Mayor. I'd like to go off script for just a bit. Mayor, Julie, I want to wish you and your family the best strength and resilience, and especially Sam, for all you're going through. We feel for you. So,
thank you.
Now on to my presentation. Okay, so basically I'm here to outline what the Ross Property Owners Association has on their calendar and coming up. So on the 10th, which is tomorrow, we are going to have a band perform John Chi with the Pacific Syndicate on the Ross Commons, and it depends on the weather. So the rain will be there, but so we'll see how many people can attend. On the 28th, we have a bingo for all ages will be occurring at the Marin Art Garden Center. On November 1st, there's estate planning age-friendly at Marin Art and Garden Center. On November 15th, there's a turkey trot by the Ross Auxiliary. A lot of stuff going on. On November 16th, there's bingo for all ages, once again at the Marin Art and Garden Center. And December 1st, holiday decorations and lighting on the Ross Commons will be put up. Then on December 6th, there's a Winterfest at Marin Art Garden Center by the Ross Auxiliary. And then finally, December 14th, there's bingo again for all ages at the Marin Art Garden Center. A lot of bingos. The report is, excuse me, for the our membership is a little less than we had last year at this time, so we're putting out a mailer this week, and another mailer goes out by the end of October, trying to encourage more people to join and contribute to the Ross Property Owners Association. And then I was going to describe the emergency aid thing that we went through, but that always was described by our mayor, and that's about all I have for now, unless someone has, oh, excuse me, there's a couple other things. The hanging flowers that we put up are thriving, they're doing very well. The grass field has been under consideration by, I guess, the town council and Ross Property Owners Association. And we're trying to improve it. We haven't come up with a method that we can, I guess, fund it, but there's been issues with people getting injured there. So this is becoming more and more important. So I guess we're going to work together with whoever we work with and try to come up with a solution. Okay, there are new lights for the post office. I believe we're going to go through with that, even though they haven't signed, the post office hasn't signed their lease. But that's another. And lastly, there are electrical outlets for the holiday lights. We've improved those. There's some upgrades so the circuits don't trip. So that's all, unless you have any questions. That's all? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Andy. That's very, very complete and thorough. So many events going on in town. It's really wonderful. Thanks to RPOA. Next is Town Manager Johnson.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. The Marin County Board of Supervisors approved the Town Council's request to move the Ross municipal elections to November, starting next year in 2026. The change extends each of the council members' terms during this transition. And now that the town has received the Board of Supervisors' approval, then the town clerk will be sending a postcard to all residents informing them of the election change. So that should be going out in these next few weeks or so. The town's third annual Turkey Trot race is scheduled for Saturday, November 15th, starting on Ross School's blacktop. There will be a 10K, a 5K, a 1 mile, and our always fun toddler dash. The event is family-friendly, and dressing up is encouraged with awards given. I got an award last year, so, it's going to be a hot competition because I fully intend to succeed again. Please register at rossturkeytrot.com. And that's it for me. Thank you, Mayor.
Sorry, I have a question. What is the status of the readers, the license plate readers?
Excuse me. Still going back and forth with the company that gave us the quote for insurance. Yep.
So, sorry, is there a timeline? I'm just wondering if we should work with maybe another vendor. It's just, we approved this so long ago, and I think the council voted for it, we've appropriated the funds. So if this vendor is not really wanting to work with us, maybe we find a different vendor, but I think we should try to do this project.
Yes, I have communicated in ongoing communications with our police chief. He does not recommend There's pretty much two companies that do it. He does not recommend at this time the other vendor, so I continue to persevere on this current vendor, and hopefully we'll get to the point where we can. But the council approved the concept of it and handed it to me to return with a contract. I'm not able to return with a contract that I recommend at this time until the town has a reasonable amount of risk, can accept a reasonable amount of risk. Right now, it's not reasonable for the town. But I'm not giving up. I'm persevering. And I hope that I can bring it back to you before the end of the year. That's where we are.
Thank you, Town Manager Johnson. Moving on to number 9, the consent agenda. There are 5 items on the consent agenda. Does any member of the Town Council wish to pull any item from the consent agenda?
I'd like to pull 9D.
Okay. Anyone else? Does any member of the public wish to pull a matter from the consent agenda? Anyone in the chamber? Anyone online?
No, Mayor.
Okay, so could we please have a motion to approve the consent agenda items A, B, C, and E?
So moved.
Second.
Great. Cindy, roll.
Mayor McMillan?
Aye.
Councilmember Salter?
Aye.
Councilmember Dowling?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Robbins?
Aye.
With a vote of 4-0, the motion passes.
Thank you. Matt, go ahead for D.
Well, I think that this is our full year results. And I would just say in general, I think we should actually have it presented because it's really important that we look at our finances and have it just presented to the public so they know what good shape the financials are. So if you wouldn't mind, Krista, I know it's summarized in the report. I just pull these because, again, I think for the transparency and it's worthwhile for people to know. And specifically, commentary is that, what an amazing job you're doing and the staff to manage this town's finances. And so it's just an opportunity for you also to share that, again, I've said this in past quarters, other cities and towns are not in such a good position, and you continue to be a great steward of the finances. And so please share that with the public.
Thank you, Councilmember Salter. It's my pleasure to give a real brief presentation. So the item before you tonight is our year-end financial report for fiscal year 2024-25, and it is recommended that you review and accept it. The report shows operating revenues are just under $1 million over budget, and that expenses are about $500,000 under budget, resulting in a $1.4 million positive variance, which is substantial because it's good more than 10% of our budget. Importantly, this positive outcome has enabled the town to make a $200,000 discretionary contribution to CalPERS to pay down the unfunded pension liability. We already pay down some of our pension liability as part of our regular rates, employer rates. This is an additional discretionary pay down that the council directs me to do as part of the annual budget process. So we're able to do that. And then it also allows us to contribute just under $500,000 to the Facilities and Equipment Fund. This is our fund where we pay for special projects. A new patrol car, for example, we purchased at the end of this past fiscal year. And also importantly, it allows us to make an additional transfer to the Capital Projects Fund. The Capital Projects Fund is a relatively new fund that was started just a year or so ago, and it is the town council's savings account for your project here, the Civic Center modernization and redevelopment. So that's something that I think that the council should be very proud of itself for building that fund. We expect by the end of this fiscal year, we'll have almost $12 million in that fund. A few highlights about the operating fund, our revenues, and why they are about just under $1 million over budget. One is our property taxes. This is by far the biggest source of revenue the town of Ross has, coming in about $135,000 over budget. We do budget our property, we budget very conservatively every year when it comes to revenues, and especially the property tax. So good news, it came in $135,000 over our budget. Interest, we received just under $200,000 more in interest revenue than the prior year. And that's primarily because our balance in our capital projects fund is growing, and so therefore it's generating more interest revenue. Our planning revenue is down slightly from the prior year. Our building revenue is actually down 30% over the year before, so that's substantial. However, the good news is that staff anticipated that decrease, and so it's actually coming in right about where it's supposed to be in terms of the budget. So we anticipated that decrease. Recreation, also importantly, our recreation department, the revenue in the recreation department continues to recover from the COVID shutdown. So every year it's been increasing, so that's good. The operating fund expenses are about $500,000 under budget, primarily due to unfilled positions. For example, we are now fully staffed in the police department with 9 authorized full-time positions. It has taken us a long time to get there, and it's only been very recent. So we had over $200,000 in salary and benefit savings in the police department. We also have a senior building inspector position that has been unfilled since the beginning of May. And we have a contract building inspector, but that's not costing us as much as the salary and benefits of the full-time position. So those are the highlights of it, and thank you, Councilmember Salter, for your nice words. I know our staff does a lot of work in the budget. We also have a new full-time senior accountant, and they deserve much of the credit. But really, we have a council here that is thrifty, and you've been very, very good about setting aside money in your capital projects fund and continuing to be frugal as you approach your budget every year. So, thank you.
Thank you, Krista, for that excellent report. Does anyone have any questions?
I just have one. Just regarding the planning revenues, because of the housing element, I'm just wondering if, obviously this was for last year, but are we seeing a good amount of activity just in terms of people building, in terms of feeling comfortable? I know we're not doing a housing element discussion here, but just seeing those revenues, you kind of know that people are building.
Well, and I'll ask Roberta to provide specifics, but planning revenue is down slightly year over year. But do you have anything to add?
So even though the revenue is down, I will say we've consistently been processing ADUs. So in my estimation, we're doing pretty good as far as working towards additional housing units.
Any other council questions? Any public comment on item 9D in the chamber? Online, Cindy?
No raised hands online, Mayor.
Great. So could we please have a motion to approve item number 9D?
So move.
Second.
Roll call.
Mayor McMillan?
Yes.
Councilmember Salter?
Aye.
Councilmember Dowling?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Robbins?
Yes.
With a vote of 4, the motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on to the administrative agenda, item number 10, Town Council consideration to introduce ordinance number 732 to amend Chapter 14.04 of the Ross Municipal Code and adopt the 2025 edition of the California Fire Code and 2024 International Fire Code with certain local amendments and additions, and schedule a public hearing, second reading, and adoption of the ordinance at the November 13, 2025 Town Council meeting. Chief Mahoney and Rob Bastian.
So thank you, Mayor and Council. Tonight we'll hear an overview of the 2025 Fire Code update, part of the regular state code cycle, which came before you in 2022. Now we're in the new cycle. Each cycle, the Ross Valley Fire Department reviews the new code and makes recommendations for local amendments that reflect the community's conditions and safety needs. So here to present the proposed updates and key changes, we'll have Chief Mahoney and Robert Bastian. Take it away, Rob.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Thank you for considering this ordinance to adopt the 2025 edition of the California Fire Code and the 2024 International Fire Code with local amendments. This adoption ensures the town stays compliant with state fire and building standards. The California Building Standards Commission updates the model codes every 3 years, and the local agencies have 180 days to review and make amendments based on local conditions before the codes take effect. The town must complete this process by January 1st of 2026. Marin County Fire Prevention Officers have historically collaborated on code reviews, creating a consistent and cooperative approach to fire safety that simplifies compliance for contractors and developers across jurisdictions. The previous local amendments to the fire code are carried forward and are supported by the proposed findings in Exhibit A. These findings are necessary because of local climatic, geographic, and topographic conditions. Other than new code section references, there are 3 new proposed changes. Summary of changes. The adoption of the 2025 edition of the California Fire Code and 2024 International Code. I'd like to make a note that in bullet point number 2 in the staff report there needs to be a correction. And please let the minutes reflect bullet point number 2 should read amend chapter 5, section 503.2.1, raising vertical clearance over fire lanes from 13 feet 6 inches to 15 feet. And this allows for safe travel of fire apparatus during an emergency. Continuing with the summary of changes, amend Chapter 5, Section 510 by deleting 2 exceptions. And this provision requires emergency responder radio communications enhancement systems to be installed in all new buildings where radio coverage is weaker inside than in the outside of the building. The proposed amendment removes 2 exceptions to this requirement. Exception number 1, the building official and fire code official approve use of wired communication systems, and exception number 4, in single-story buildings less than 12,000 square feet. Exception 1 is carried over from prior adoptions, and exception 4 ensures radio communication is available during an emergency regardless of height or size of the building. And then also new is the adoption of Appendix D, fire apparatus access roads, and this ensures consistency throughout the county for developments in emergency response. I thank you again for your consideration for the proposed fire code adoption. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions, council members?
So the biggest question I have is this very hard, it's a very big document and it's hard to understand. I see the summary of the changes, but what impacts those would actually have on the buildings, or what impact it will have if we adopt these changes? And I don't know if that's something for Roberta versus you, but just understanding how they have to build differently, or what is this actually going to do?
So the new changes, again, is we're raising the height of let's say trees are overhanging a fire road. We're raising that from 13 feet 6 inches to 15 feet to allow safer travel of our apparatus. What happens is they do it to the bare minimum, and then the first rain and everything gets below, and we're going right back and do it again. We learned that during the roadside clearance projects we've done, that we were doing them to 13 feet, and then 3 months later, we're back out there doing them again. So this way, we're just raising it a foot and a half higher, so we don't have to keep coming back as quick.
Okay, sorry, and because there's a couple other changes.
Yeah, then the other one is the radio. This is for our radio system. There's an exception for a single-story, 12,000 square foot building. We don't have many of those. So really, this is to stay consistent throughout the county. And it ensures that we have radio coverage regardless of height or the size of the structure. And it does not apply to single-family homes.
So it just ensures that you could use your radios in the building?
That's exactly what it is.
Okay.
It's the same outside as it is inside.
Okay.
And then the roadways for new developments, which were pretty much a built environment.
Okay, so it's not really applicable to us.
It'll only be if somebody was to tear down a whole bunch of area and build a new community. That's where that one would apply.
And that's just like how big the roads have to be?
It's the same width that we already have. It's just a new standard that the state came out with that we have to adopt locally.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else on the council with questions? Public comment on this item? In the chamber? Online, Cindy?
No raised hands online, Mayor.
Okay, so we'll bring it back for any discussion. Ben, do we need a motion on this?
Yes, there'd be a motion to introduce ordinance number 732 to amend the chapter 14.04 of the Ross Municipal Code and adopt the 2025 edition of the California Fire Code and 2024 International Code with certain local amendments and additions, and schedule a public hearing, second reading, and adoption of ordinance at the November 13th, 2025 Town Council meeting.
So I just wanted to just say one thing, which is when we do these, I'm happy we do all these updates, if we could just understand if from the planning department, this is obviously not that material, if there are some impacts to how people would have to build or just any changes, which we talked about once about the trees being close to the homes, for example, any sort of impacts like that so that no one's caught off guard or understands them, that'd be helpful. Thanks.
Before we do a motion, I just want to explain this item and the next two items. So every 3 years, every city in California has to readopt our codes. So in essence, that's what we're doing. Even though there's a lot of language in here, these codes are already, a lot of them are already on our books. Even the amendments that we're doing, we have to readopt each 3 years when there's a new code set. So I think that that's part of the issue that we're talking about. Then there's some new amendments that Rob talked about tonight. But the vast majority of text in here is already what we have. We just have to readopt it every 3 years because we have local amendments.
Well, if there's no other discussion, I move what Ben said, introduce ordinance of number 732 and the rest of that paragraph.
Second.
Roll, Cindy.
Mayor McMillan?
Yes.
Councilmember Salter?
Yes.
Councilmember Dowling?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Robbins?
Yes.
With a vote of 4, the motion passes.
Thank you. Item number 11, Town Council consideration to introduce ordinance number 733 and add chapter 14.6 of the Ross Municipal Code and adopt the 2025 edition of the California Wildland Urban Interface Code and 2024 International Wildland Urban Interface Code with certain local amendments and additions, and schedule a public hearing, second reading, and adoption of the ordinance at the November 13, 2025 Town Council meeting. Roberta, is that you again?
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. Next, we'll hear an overview of the Wildland Urban Interface, or WUI code. This code is an important part of the fire safety framework. It sets construction and vegetation standards for properties located in areas where homes and wildlands meet, helping reduce wildland risk wildfire risk and improve community resilience. And here to walk us through some of the key provisions are Chief Mahoney and Robert Bastianon. Go ahead, Rob.
Again, thank you for the consideration of this ordinance to amend the town municipal code and adopt the new 2025 California Wildland Urban Interface Code and the 24 edition of the International Wildland Urban Interface Code with amendments, referred to locally as the WUI Code. The new California Wildland Urban Interface Code is a combination of both building and fire construction codes that pertain to designated fire hazard severity zones in WUI areas. The WUI Code is being adopted separately in two sections of the town's municipal code, Chapter 14, Fire Prevention, and Chapter 15, Buildings and Construction. Like the fire code, the adoption ensures the town stays compliant with fire or state fire and building standards in wildfire risk areas. The California Building Standards Commission updates model codes every 3 years, and local agencies have the 180 days, and we have until January 1st, 2026 to make the adoptions. Marin County Fire Prevention officers have historically collaborated on the code reviews to keep that consistent and cooperative approach throughout the county. The previous local amendments pertaining to the WUI areas in the 2022 Fire Code are carried forward into the new WUI Code, supported by the proposed findings in Exhibit A, and these findings are necessary because of local climatic, geographic, and topographic conditions. Other than the new code, the amendments align with previously adopted fire and building construction codes with 3 new additions. So the summary of changes are adopting of the code to 2025. And prior regulations were included in both the building and fire codes. So this is taking that out of that and moving it into this new code. Amend Chapter 1, Section 110 to require both the fire code official and building code official to issue final approval prior to issuance of a certificate of completion. This ensures all requirements are met prior to occupying a building. Amend Chapter 2, defining code official and VMP. The code official identifies the responsibilities of both the fire code official and building code officials. The fire code official oversees fire-related aspects, while the building official is responsible for the building construction. And VMP expands the code definition to include vegetation management plan. New is amend Chapter 4, Section 403.1.3, raising imposed fire lane design load from 70,000 pounds to 75,000 pounds. And this guarantees uniform countywide standards for roadway designs and meeting countywide emergency apparatus access requirements. And what that does is actually aligns with the fire code. The fire code is already 75,000 pounds. They're probably going to change that as they move forward once they just found that there's a difference. We caught it during our review. Amend Chapter 6, requiring the location of emergency water supplies to be included on fire protection plans, which provides additional details on pre-fire plans for our first responders. And then amend Chapter 6, Section 602.3.1, requiring the location of fire protection systems, power sources, meters, shutdowns to fire protection plans, and again provides details necessary in an emergency event. Thank you for your consideration. I'm happy to answer any other questions you may have.
Thank you, Rob. Council members, questions?
So can you just go into a little bit about the vegetation management plan and what that will entail?
So a vegetation management plan is when you're doing a new construction or a substantial remodel, and what you're doing is putting your defensible space plan onto a document that carries forward with the property. So it's your landscaping plan, how it meets fire code requirements.
And is this, sorry, it says it's new. Was there one old?
Just the definition of VMP is added or amended. In the code, it says vegetation plan. It doesn't say vegetation management plan. Historically, we've always had vegetation management plans, so we carried that definition over.
Okay, thanks.
So the new amendment that requires a map indicating locations of emergency water supplies?
So there's already a map required. We're just requesting to add the location of emergency water supplies, whether it's a swimming pool, a hydrant, or another emergency source.
Okay, that would be for the whole town of Ross.
No, this would be for individual developments.
Thank you.
And then for the vegetation management plan, does this formally require the zone, that there's the 5-foot zone of no plants, or does that not have anything to do with this?
It has nothing to do with it at this time. The state will make the requirements when they publish them.
Okay, thank you.
But it is not part of this code.
Okay, thanks.
And sorry, just since we're on that topic, do you know the status of what the state's plan is? The last I heard, there was a sort of working group, but has there been any announcements?
My understanding, there is no announcement or a set date at this time.
It's CAL FIRE and the Board of Forestry and various political compromises. Chief Mahoney, did you want to add something? You're sitting up in your chair.
No, it's just stretching my back.
Okay.
But I can't add to the Zone Zero discussions. The board or the committee met about 2 weeks ago. So they are meeting regularly. In their last meeting was about 2 weeks ago.
Thank you. Any public comment on this item? Anyone in the chambers? Online?
There's no raised hands online, Mayor.
Okay, so we'll bring it back for further discussion, or maybe Ben can tell us what motion he would like us to make.
So I move we approve consideration. I move we approve consideration to introduce ordinance number 733 to add chapter 14.16 of the Ross Municipal Code and adopt the 2025 edition of the California Wildland Urban Interface Code and 2024 International Wildland Urban Interface Code with certain local amendments and additions, and schedule a public hearing, second reading, and adoption of the ordinance at the November 13, 2025 Town Council meeting.
Second.
Thank you. Cindy?
Mayor McMillan?
Yes.
Councilmember Salter?
Yes.
Councilmember Dowling?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Robbins?
Yes.
With a vote of 4, the motion passes.
Thank you. Item number 12, Town Council consideration to introduce ordinance number 734 on October 9, 2025, and set the public hearing for November 13, 2025 to adopt the 2025 California Building Code, 2025 California Residential Code, the 2025 California Electrical Code, the 2025 California Mechanical Code, the 2025 California Plumbing Code, the 2025 California Green Building Standards Code, the 2025 California Energy Code, the 2025 California Reference Standards Code, the 2025 California Historical Building Code, the 2025 California Existing Building Code, and the 2025 California Wildland Urban Interface Code with local amendments. Roberta, is that you?
Yes. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Our next item is an overview of the 2025 building code updates, which are part of the statewide triennial code cycle. Every 3 years, California adopts new building code standards to reflect the latest in safety, energy efficiency, and sustainability. Tonight's presentation will highlight some of the key changes, as well as amendments that address and align the community's needs and development practices. So tonight, I'm pleased to introduce our contract building official through CSG, Greg McFan, to present the updates.
Thank you. Evening, Mayor and Council. Thanks to Fire for setting the stage here. It's the same process. In this case, there's no new changes, no new local amendments to the code. We're taking all the amendments that were in the 22 code, moving them up to the 25 code. So there's no new changes there. There are some changes that the state adopted, and some of the highlights for that are As was mentioned, the new WUI code, which the building code also, the building section also adopts. There were previous amendments in Chapter 7A, and you have the building code and Section 337 of the residential code. Those have all been moved to the WUI code, but there's no changes to the language. It's just in a different part now. The significant change in the California residential code is there's an increased fire resistance between units in a duplex. The plumbing code, we're seeing stricter flow requirements for showers, faucets, and toilets. Some gray water alternative water reuse systems, higher efficiency water heaters, and some ADU specific requirements around plumbing fixture flow rates, hot water delivery times, and separate shutoffs for ADU water supply. The energy code, there's some changes to minimum efficiencies for heat pumps, increased controls for lighting, and more requirements for photovoltaic systems. The California Green Build Standards codes, expanded EV charging requirements, stronger emphasis on material reuse and water diversion, and enhanced site development, landscaping, vegetation, and minimizing heat islands. Those are the significant changes coming into the code from the state's standpoint. And again, there's no changes from the local amendments. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions, council members?
So just, I mean, this is really interesting for us that we get all of these codes. Do most of them come from the state? I mean, how does it usually, it flows down from the state and then we have to adopt it locally?
Yeah, every 3 years, there's national bodies that adopt codes. In most of these cases, the International Code Council adopts a code. The state then takes it and makes state amendments, and then they publish it usually by July 1st every 3 years, and they give local jurisdictions 180 days to make amendments and then adopt. So, I mean, the downside, if you determined you didn't want to adopt any amendments, the January 1st, 2026, these codes would be in effect in Ross, statewide, but here, so it's.
And then just one other question, how do we implement it? So let's say we adopt it, then our planning department has to understand all the new requirements that have come down and then look at plans that come in after that date?
Correct. I mean, there's always a lot of ongoing training and education for code officials and inspectors to get up to date on the new codes. This code cycle is one of the fewest significant changes to code from 3 years ago to now. So it's, from our standpoint, it's a little bit easier. And for the builder standpoint, there's not a lot of new stuff to learn.
Thank you.
Any other comments from council members or questions? Okay, any public comment on this item in the chambers? Online, Cindy?
No raised hands online, Mayor.
Okay, we can bring it back then for discussion or hopefully a motion.
I'd like to move to introduce ordinance number 733 to add chapter 14.16 of the Ross Municipal Code and adopt the 2025 edition of the California Wildland Urban Interface.
Wait, Terry, that's the wrong one. That's the wrong one. You need to read number 12.
Okay, we'll start again. I would like to move to introduce ordinance number 734 on October 9th, 2025, and set the public hearing for November 13th, 2025, to adopt the 2025 California Building Code, 2025 California Residential Code, and the 2025 California Electrical Code, and the 2025 California Mechanical Code, and the 2025 California Plumbing Code, and the 2025 California Green Building Standard Code, and the 2025 California Energy Code, and the 2025 California Reference Standards Code, and the 2025 California Historical Building Code, and the 2025 California Existing Building Code, and the 2025 California Wildlife Urban Interface Code with annual amendments.
Wildland urban interface with local amendments. I'll just amend your motion.
Thank you.
We have a second?
Second.
Cindy, roll.
Mayor McMillan?
Yes.
Councilmember Salter?
Aye.
Councilmember Dowling?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Robbins?
Aye.
With a vote of 4, the motion passes.
Thank you. Thank you, Roberta. Item number 13, Town Council to receive a presentation and update on the 2023 greenhouse gas inventory and consider directing staff to collaborate with the Marin Climate and Energy Partnership to perform a technical update and refresh of the 2010 Climate Action Plan. Roberta?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Our next presentation is on the 2023 Greenhouse Gas Inventory Report and the possibility of updating the Climate Action Plan. These reports track the community's progress towards reducing emissions and help guide us with the next steps in achieving our climate goals. So tonight, I'm happy to introduce Christina O'Rourke, and she'll walk us through the latest inventory results, some highlights and trends, and then also provide us some options on updating the Climate Action Plan. Take it away, Christine.
Thank you, Roberta, and good evening, Mayor Dowling and members of the Ross-Town Council.
I'm just a council person. So Julie is the mayor.
Ah, you're right. You're just seated. You're just seated in the
She's got
hot
the power
seat.
chair.
Okay.
The middle.
All right. So it's a pleasure to be here with you this evening. I'm Christina O'Rourke. I am the Sustainability Coordinator for the Marin Climate and Energy Partnership. And that is a collaboration of all of the cities and towns in Marin, plus the County of Marin, plus MCE, and the Transportation Authority of Marin, and Marin Water. Ross has been a member of MCP since the beginning. We've been working together since 2007 to produce these annual greenhouse gas emissions inventory reports and to do climate action plan updates for all of our member jurisdictions. So tonight, I'm going to start by giving you a brief overview of your 2023 community-wide greenhouse gas emissions inventory. This is for the year 2023 because that's the latest year that we have all of the data that we need to produce these inventories. So there's always about a year and a half lag for them. And here we are accounting for all of the emissions that occur because of activities that occur within the town's boundary. The most of the emissions come from the use of natural gas in the built environment, and primarily, of course, here in Ross, that would be residences, but this is also including commercial buildings. The second largest sector is from the transportation. That's about a third of your emissions are coming from the transportation sector, and that is primarily from passenger vehicles, but this also includes commercial vehicles and buses as they travel within the Ross boundary. Then the rest of these sectors are quite small. So the built environment electricity sector is the use of electricity in homes and businesses. That's only represents 3% of community-wide emissions. That sector used to be much larger, but our electricity has been getting much cleaner over the years, so it's shrunk over time. And then the other sector is the waste sector. This represents emissions that come from the decomposition of organic material in the landfill. That's 4% of emissions. Water and wastewater and off-road all clock in at 1% or less of community emissions. And this is a view of your emissions since going back all the way back to 1990. So we have data that goes back to 2005, and we estimate the 1990 emissions. So Ross's emissions are down 22% since 1990. The statewide goal at this point is for a 40% reduction by the year 2030, and that's a 40% reduction in statewide emissions. And then there's a longer-term statewide goal for 2045, which is zero net emissions. And so 85% of that would be achieved through mitigation or reduction in emissions, and the other 15% would be achieved through carbon dioxide removal strategies like sequestration. I would also note that the town's current climate action plan, which went through 2020, had a goal to reduce emissions 15% below the 2005 level by 2020. That goal was actually achieved in 2014, so it was 6 years early that the town achieved that goal. So just a few sector highlights. Since 2005, electricity emissions are down 93%, and that's what I was talking about when I was talking about how we're shrinking that sector of the emissions. And this is due to lower carbon intensity of electricity. We're putting a lot more renewables and non-GHG producing sources on the electricity grid. Natural gas emissions are down only 1% since 2005. Natural gas emissions really are highly dependent on the weather, and they fluctuate from year to year. So this is really an area where Ross could be doing much better. Transportation emissions are down 29%. So that's due to a combination of both less vehicle miles traveled on the roads, which are down 7% since 2005, and also better fuel efficiency of the vehicles that are on our roads compared to 2005, and also more zero-emission vehicles. And on that note, Ross's zero-emission vehicles, 17.5% of all of the passenger vehicles registered to Ross residents were zero-emission vehicles by the end of 2023, and that compares to the countywide average, which is 9.3%. And then finally, waste emissions are down almost 50%, and that's due to a combination both of less disposal in the landfill, that's down 23%, as well as lower organic content in the landfilled waste. Another look at your ZEVs, this is through 2024, and it's covering up there what Ross is, but you're at I can't even see it either, 21%, there we go. So Ross, 21% of the vehicles registered here in Ross are zero-emission vehicles by the end of 2024, and you have the highest adoption rate of all of the Marin jurisdictions, which is commendable. On the other hand, Ross has the highest use of natural gas by household annual use, and it's significantly higher than most of the other jurisdictions. So the average home here in Ross uses just over 1,300 therms of natural gas per year. Okay, now switching to the Climate Action Plan update. Your Climate Action Plan was adopted in 2010, and at that time we had produced very similar climate action plans, through the Marin Climate and Energy Partnership, for all of the jurisdictions. Since that time, all of the other jurisdictions in Marin have updated their climate action plan once and sometimes even 2 times. So your plan is targeting 2020, which has passed, and there are, as I mentioned, new state targets for 2030, which all of the new climate action plans address the 2030. So I'm here tonight because the Marin Climate and Energy Partnership does have funding to do an update of your climate action plan. And what we would do is use a template that we've been using for all the other jurisdictions. It was most recently adopted in the city of Novato. That was just a couple of weeks ago. So we would start with that template, and then we would choose what's relevant to Ross. I would work with staff to do that update. We would include a presentation to the council, of course, to like a study session to go over what was in kind of the significant things that were in that climate action plan. We would incorporate new technologies, best practices, and we would really just focus on kind of streamlining this climate action plan so that we were focusing on actions that have the greatest impact. And I recognize that you have a small staff and limited resources to implement this plan. So we would really want to, make sure that what we're including is doable, actionable, and has the greatest impact. The climate action plan would align with other actions in the Marin Climate Action Plan and their caps. And that's helpful because when we take joint actions, particularly when we're working at MCEP together, if we have similar actions across the climate action plans, it helps. And then finally, we would be leveraging state and regional legislation and programs to achieve the 40% reduction. And on that note, there are quite a few of state and regional actions that are happening. So in regard to zero-emission vehicles, the state has a target that all passenger vehicles and light-duty vehicles sold in California by the year 2035 will be zero-emission vehicles, and that will be true of medium and heavy-duty vehicles by 2045. So the California Air Resources Board is already implementing regulations to achieve this. The CARB California Air Resources Board has already implemented a regulation that requires all newly manufactured small off-road equipment, and that includes like landscape equipment, as well as pressure washers and portable generators. So those that are being sold in California right now have to be zero-emission vehicles, zero-emission equipment. There are similar rules for zero-emission transit. All buses need to be zero-emission by 2040. And then a significant one is this ban on natural gas appliances. And this is a regulation that's been adopted by the Bay Area Air District. And they've adopted a ban on the sale and installation of natural gas water heaters and natural gas space heating systems. And this phases in, it starts with water heaters, that's residential water heaters in 2027. And then in 2029, it extends to space heaters. So this will have a big impact also in Ross, particularly for new development or any new redevelopment, or just when a heater burns out and needs to be replaced. And then on the waste front, there is state regulation that requires all residents and businesses to compost their organic waste. There is a target for 75% reduction in organic waste disposal by the year 2025. That's this year. And then we have continued renewable electricity targets with zero carbon electricity intended for 2045. And then finally, the state building code, and you just adopted your state building code. So as you know, that is updated every 3 years. And there are requirements in that effectively require new development to either install a heat pump, hot water heater, or heating system. It also requires all other equipment to be electric ready so that it's prepared for years from now when they can replace a natural gas appliance with electric. Requires solar, and there's also EV requirements as well. So we will be kind of leaning very heavily on these existing state regulations and programs in order to, like I said, achieve the final target for 2030. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Questions, council members?
So I have a couple of questions. If we are to update our climate action plan, are you proposing to update it with California standards, or are you proposing to update it with standards that are stricter than California standards?
Well, we would probably be looking at the California standards unless the council wanted us to try to go beyond that. I will say with the work that I've done with other communities that it's difficult to get above the 40% reduction.
The 40% reduction in what?
So it's a 40% reduction in emissions, a 40% below the 1990 level by the year 2030. So you're already at 22% below 1990 levels. We have an additional 18% to go, but it's pretty difficult to get there. So to stretch even further would require things like adopting a more stringent building code. Then you could go to like tier 1 or tier 2, for example. I mean, there's some more significant things that the town would have to do.
Right. I mean, I understand how difficult it would be. So I pulled up this University of Chicago report that says that a single year of wildfire emissions is close to double the emission reductions achieved over the past 16 years. So that's something we're facing. Then isn't that correct, that no matter how much we try to reduce our emissions, a year of wildfire erases everything?
That's true.
And so for those reasons, I personally wouldn't want to go beyond the state, because we have to get the fires under control before we can get our emissions under control.
Well, and we can certainly do that, and we can present options to the council so that you can see what additional measures would need to be taken in order to go beyond the state target.
I guess that's more for the discussion, but that wouldn't be my preference. But and the goal of 60% of electricity from renewable sources by 2030, is that a state recommendation?
That is a state target, and they are implementing that at the California Energy Commission.
Okay. And then the ban on the natural gas appliances starting in 2027, is that a state requirement or is that some other origin?
That's a regional requirement, so it's a regulation that was adopted by the Bay Area Air District, so it affects the.
What? Oh my God, what?
In the Bay Area.
Oh, sorry, okay.
But however, the California Air Resources Board is looking at similar regulations. They were actually going to kind of start it at like 2030, but they're looking at aligning it with the Bay Area's regulation.
But for the moment, for the moment at the state level, is there a ban on natural gas appliances or that hasn't been implemented yet? Okay. I think those are my main questions. Thank you. That was very helpful and informative. Thank you.
Sure.
You're looking at the Novato climate plan as a template that could be used for Ross and adopted, of course, not the same.
Yeah, so with this template that we use is the same template that we've used in other, most recently, it was before it went to Ross, it was adopted in Tiburon and Mill Valley, so that was probably a year or two ago when those, so every time we start with the latest iteration, because things keep changing, and then we adapt that for the jurisdiction, so that is kind of what we would do. The Ross one might be, have a lot in it, and I could see working with staff to kind of trim those down so that, and then they're just more relevant to Ross, because you're obviously a much smaller community than Novato.
Do you have an idea of how much staff time it will take?
For myself, I would estimate 20 to 40 hours of work. Really, Christine is sort of doing the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
We'll collaborate. My role would be reviewing them and maybe coming up with parts of the plan that would be consistent with the community of Ross's needs, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Catering it to Ross.
So this is within the realm of possibilities of work. Okay. Thank you.
So I had a question just about the natural gas variance. Is that due to just the size of the homes and heating?
That's what I would presume, is that it has to do with the size of the homes, although it is quite a bit higher even than Belvedere, but I think also that your homes are still probably larger than the homes in Belvedere.
Christine, is it also because we have so many pools?
That could have an impact, yeah.
So could if we wanted to have part of our plan, some sort of subsidies or something for heat pumps or trying to get rid of people's, could that be incorporated in the plan? Is that sort of one of the items that we could look at?
We could look at subsidies. There are also other grants that are available, although they're usually tied to low income restrictions. But I think just looking at, there's a heat pump lasts about 8 to 10 years. So there's kind of a natural, turnover of those appliances. So we kind of just look at the natural turnover and count how many hot water heaters, for example, we can expect to be replaced between 2027 and 2030. There are ways to kind of accelerate that, at least through promotion and educating the community and doing workshops. I mean, and a lot of these things are, and fairs, a lot of these things are happening in other communities in Marin County. So, and making sure that the community is educated about the benefits of heat pumps, hot water heaters and heat pump heating systems as well. So there are ways to kind of boost what we're going to get just from the air district regulation.
Okay, thank you.
I have a couple questions. I think you said that every other jurisdiction in Marin has updated their climate action plan except for Ross. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay, and is there any downside to not, what would be the downside of not doing this update?
I personally don't see any downside. I think the issue really is about, your staff time, because there is no cost to the town, so.
And the one other thing about the natural gas usage, is there any contemplation to restrict natural gas stoves?
So the natural gas stoves, I mean, it's a pretty small percentage of the natural gas. Most of it, probably 75% of the usage is going to be for hot water heating and space heating. So typically, we kind of avoid the stoves. I mean, with the induction cooktops at this point that are really in many ways superior to natural gas, and also kind of the awareness of the indoor air pollution that happens from using natural gas stoves. I think there's less resistance, but there has been resistance from property owners to regulate their stoves. So I know like at the county, when they were doing rebates, they were just kind of shying away from the stoves and really focusing on the hot water heaters and the heating systems, because those are, we get the biggest bang for the buck there.
Yeah, that makes sense. And is there a role for a council member to participate, Roberta, in this revision?
Yeah, we could certainly do that. And, it's similar to how I worked with the Belvedere.
Nancy Kemitzer.
In the council there.
Yeah.
They also have a very small town, and so we did work with, I think it was one or two, so that there was a subcommittee that was appointed just to review the cap. And Roberta and I haven't, decided on any particular process. We're absolutely open to hearing what you'd like to do.
Okay. Well, I would be more than happy to participate in any kind of a committee or role with that. Should we take public comment on this item?
I have one more.
Terry, go ahead.
It sounds like education is important, as there may be not, people don't know about heat pumps or don't think about them. So I'm just wondering, is part of your work also helping figure out how best we can educate our residents about the options that they have and how they can support climate change?
Yeah, so the work that we'll do in a climate action plan is, there are already a lot of programs out there. So it's a matter of identifying them, and so that the staff can access those programs. I don't specifically create those kind of programs. We are creating them, through the Marin Climate and Energy Partnership. There was just most recently a Marin Green Home Tour, which highlighted about 8 homes, and it's been going on every year. And so there have been virtual tours. This year was an in-person tour, so that people could go to the homes and actually see this. There have been fairs that different cities have been put. I think Mill Valley did it, Novato did it. That bring in, people who are selling these, vendors, and to just kind of help people get familiar with the different options that are out there. So there's a lot of things that can be done.
Okay.
Great. Public comment? Anybody in the chamber? Anyone online?
No raised hands online, Mayor.
Okay. Gosh, the audience is...
Excuse me, Mayor.
Yeah.
This is Krista.
Yeah.
May I make a comment?
Yes, please.
Thank you. First of all, in regard to the council, the idea of council input, if it's outside of the council meetings, we would need a consensus of the council that you want to do that, set up a subcommittee and who those people would be, that kind of a thing. Okay. And then
we'd have to set up a subcommittee. We'd have to request that a subcommittee be set up. Would you say that one more time?
Yeah, so if I'm just following up on the mayor's idea of how the council can be involved in the process, if it's outside of the council meeting, we would need the council as a whole, we need consensus of the council to direct us to set up a subcommittee or give us direction to think about it, about how that would work and bring it back, or give us direction tonight, and which would be the most efficient thing, and then tell us who you would want to be on the committee. We would just need consensus of the council to make direction, especially because in my experience here, the town council has been usually interested in bringing things back to the whole council. So I would want to make sure that I was on the same page with the consensus of the council, the majority of the council. That's all. And then I have another.
Can I just ask a question about that, Krista? I assume that even if one or two council members were participating, ultimately the climate action plan would have to be approved by the entire council, correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay, great. So there would be an opportunity for the entire council to weigh in. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the other thing I just wanted to comment when I think it was Mayor McMillan who asked about the, what would happen if we didn't do this? And one thing I really like about the 2010 plan, sure, it's old, but I think it's very easy to read. And many of the sections actually have tables which say mitigation measures for government operations. So there's action items that are specifically what can we do as an organization. And just since I've been here, I mean, I don't look at this every day, but we oftentimes consulted. So for example, when the police chief was looking at buying, he received approval to buy a patrol car, we looked back at this, and yes, that is one of the mitigation measures that's identified in the 2010. So we tried very hard. The first one, there wasn't anything that was suitable. But then the last patrol car we purchased here was a hybrid. So we look back at that. One of the mitigation measures in here or a recommendation is that we, as an organization, encourage farmers markets. Well, there was a good farmers market here during COVID. It ended. Then we did have council member and resident inquiries about restarting it, but we also saw that it was in this plan. So this is something that helps guide our budget process. It guides staff's work, just like the general plan does or the housing element. So just wanted to point that out. I like how this Christine, were you part of this plan in 2010? Yes. Yeah, I think it's very easy to read, and I would hope that our next one would be the same. Thank you.
Okay. Consensus from the council to set up a subcommittee right now? Would that be helpful?
So just to clarify, attachment 3 of the staff report has the scope of work, and working with a council-appointed subcommittee would be an additional task that isn't covered by the funding source. So I would need to find out how much that would cost, and that would need to be covered, by another funding source that wouldn't be free to the town.
Well, hold on. So we have existing subcommittees. So I don't know if, Julie, if you're on one that you would want to suggest to just go to an existing subcommittee, but that might be the easiest way.
Somebody's still going to have to staff it, correct?
Yeah, but those subcommittees meet normally, so it's just would be part of the.
So what our
consultant would not be spending
because
time
you're saying
there,
the consultant would have to come?
It would be Christine's time. That would be an additional task. And I don't know how many meetings we're going to have. So when we talked about it, our idea was to include the study session. That way, all the council members could see kind of our proposal, and then from there, give us the comments before the final draft.
I think
and then that
works
way, all
better.
5 council members would get to, provide your comments and your feedback on that draft.
That sounds great to me. I don't want to make more work for anybody or expend funds that are not necessary to be spent.
And, or just, is it a Brown Act violation to have one council member sit in on your meetings? I mean, if Julie's interested, could she just sit in?
It's not a Brown Act violation, but it's not a best practice where you have one council member doing something that the other 4 don't have that same access, unless you all agree to that and direct the council member to do it. Otherwise, for any topic, you could have council members dropping in and wanting to participate where the whole.
Yeah. And I think it kind of becomes awkward if one council member is kind of participating in the work product that the staff is presenting. Then when it comes to the council, all of a sudden the council member who has been participating becomes less objective because they have kind of a vested authorship in the product. So I think it's better I'm really interested in climate change, and I was on the MCCMC Climate Action Committee, and I did the Resilient Neighborhoods training. I'm really interested in this, but I see no reason. It doesn't sound like Christine or Roberta need one or two of us to be getting in their way. I think that they can do this really efficiently and effectively, and then they can bring it back to all five of us.
Well, maybe just one suggestion, Julie, would be maybe you could submit all that work you did to them just to look at as they're forming their plan.
Christine is an expert, and I would never, ever want to submit anything to her. I think she's really eminently qualified to help do this work. So thank you, Matt. But yeah. It sounds like do we have consensus to have Christine
We
and
haven't
Roberta work
discussed yet.
on this?
I have some comments for the discussion.
Okay, go ahead, Elizabeth.
I think we were all just trying to figure out how to do the committee.
Okay, so but
No, we have, before we comment. Yeah.
No, we've had public comment. We're bringing it back for discussion. We were talking about the committee. I think we've decided a subcommittee is not necessary. Let's discuss if we want to go forward updating the climate action plan. My view is yes, we should definitely do this.
So I have a few comments. I think reducing greenhouse gas emissions is a worthy goal, and I think it's not unreasonable to update a climate action plan all the other towns have. I think that, looking at this University of Chicago study, we can't forget that that wildfires, it says that wildfires in 2020 alone make up 30% of the state's greenhouse gases, and that the wildfires from 2020 had, in terms of emissions, erased double the emissions reductions that were achieved over 16 years. So wildfires are a total disaster. They completely wipe out all of our gains from these well-intentioned efforts to reduce greenhouse gases. I'm not saying that we shouldn't continue to try, but I think we shouldn't do things that are unreasonable or that are expensive for residents, because we're not making a difference until we get wildfires under control. So I would say that my preference would be to, yes, update it, but to keep the standards at the state level and not stricter than the state level.
Well, I think that we should move forward with updating the plan. It's very old, and I think it's great. It's a free resource, and you're going to do it for free. So I appreciate your comments, Councilmember Robbins. I think we should just incorporate those comments into the plan, but we should go ahead and do the plan update.
Yeah, I totally agree. We should do the plan. It's time. I feel a little embarrassed that we're the only town in the county that hasn't done this. So I think it's due.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say that the Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority that was just established in 2020 has been working tirelessly to prepare Marin for wildfire. But it's really an apples to oranges comparison to pull the University of Chicago study to kind of have a defeatist mentality about wildfires reducing all the benefits of greenhouse gases for 16 years. And so we shouldn't get discouraged or dismayed. Wildfires, unfortunately, are going to continue. And with global warming and the buildup of vegetation due to fire suppression and huge rainstorms, as people saw in Southern California in 2023 and 2024, we need to work collectively as a county as well as individually to harden our homes and do zone zero and prepare our vegetation for wildfire. But this does not mean that we should just give up on taking steps for reducing greenhouse gases by other means. So I'm all for doing this as well. Is that the direction you all need?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. We all look forward to seeing this revised climate action plan. When approximately do you think we can anticipate seeing that?
Let's see. So we will come up with a draft and present that in a study session, I would say early next year, or what's?
Yeah, I think in the first quarter of next year, we can do that.
Yes.
Great. Thank you so much. That's
Can I ask
wonderful.
one more question about that? With other towns, when you do this workshop, is it common to just do it at the council, or is it done as a special session? Like, some communities obviously are more engaged, so I was just wondering how other cities have done it.
Yeah, it really depends. So some of the cities have a standing sustainability commission, and so I've worked with the sustainability commission. I did that with Novato, for example. With Mill Valley, they actually appointed a committee and to guide the process. It takes a lot more time because we devote one meeting to energy and then one meeting to transportation, and then we review all of the, and we go back. So it ends up, the Novato Climate Action Plan actually took 2 years to get through the process. So each one is different. And like I said, with Ross, there was no committee and it went a lot faster. It really depends.
All I'm saying is that with that workshop you're talking about,
The study
potentially
session.
maybe making that more of a public, I just don't know how much interest, as opposed to being a council item, maybe it's something we do with the public and open it up and,
Right.
let them come in and talk just about this item.
Okay. I think maybe the town manager and Roberta can figure out the best venue to air the climate action plan. Does that sound good, Matt?
Yeah, no, I was just throwing it out there. So
Yeah.
it's not for a while, but
Yeah.
I have a feeling people might be interested in coming in. That's all.
It's like,
I hope they are. That would be great. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Roberta and Christine. That was great. Number 14, no action items. A is council correspondence. Anything? B is future council items.
So I have one item. I know we all received the email about the resident who got injured on the field. I have been liaising with Ross Property Owners Association and the Ross Valley Little League about trying to, and I guess as part of correspondence too, I guess I could just mention, so I've been working with them, and there's a lot of interest in doing a bigger project for the field. So I was hoping we could talk about that as a council and maybe put it on an agenda item and then use it, whatever we discuss, then could inform the Public Works Department for a capital project, to come back at the budget, but just that we could discuss what we think we need to do. Because I think that it's risen to a level now that we're hearing it from so many of our constituents in different areas that they really want to do this. So I think we should agendize it to talk about, because I think it's a big
I would support
item.
that.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, were you going to support that?
No, I was just going to ask.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, feel free to ask. I mean, the item would be to agendize the common as a larger project for the town.
I was just wondering, is Ross Property Owners Association, is Ross Property Owners Association taking the lead on this?
Yes, so they said they would lead it, and obviously with Public Works, they're going to lead bringing together the groups. So Ross Valley Little League, for example, spent resources to redo the Basich field. So they are going to, I told them, hey, let's look at what you guys could contribute, Ross Property Owners, the school, and then obviously we'd want Maureen to talk about what she envisions for Ross Rec. So the idea was to hopefully, we've done a lot of Band-Aids on the field, but look at like maybe a holistic project to fix the field and the baseball diamonds.
I was just wondering if it's something that we need to take the lead on, or we just become part of the process that Ross Property Owners Association is taking the lead on.
Don't we have to take the lead because it's our property?
Yes, exactly. I was gonna say it's our,
Yeah.
will probably be the lion's share of the money. So I think we should lead it, but it's nice to know the citizens group will help.
Yeah.
If that makes sense for the staff. So
Okay.
it's a big item.
Yeah,
And
I would support it too.
thank you.
Mayor?
Yeah.
May I just make a comment? You know, the council had a similar agenda item just this past year, standalone before your budget cycle, and the council did not support it. So I'll work with the mayor and the mayor pro tem to schedule it. We're not going to be able to get to it for a little while. That doesn't mean we're absolutely, Rich and his team are going to be looking at, have already identified the divots in that situation, things that they can be doing immediately to prevent any kind of injuries or unpleasantness on it. I've also asked our Public Works Director to look at some, more near-term, modest, kind of doable, tangible things, because our POA has very, very kindly offered to provide funding, things that could be done. The idea of a bigger project, which is the, $800,000, $900,000 project, taking multiple funders, that is going to require a significant amount of staff time. And that is the kind of conversation that it's best for the council to have within the context of your entire budget. So like last year, remember, I think it was Councilmember Salter, maybe Mayor Pro Tem Robbins, who asked for kind of a pre-budget study session at a council meeting. I recall, I think we were going to do it in January, but then Matt, you were out of town, so we did it in February, about the kind of what, from Rich's perspective, the capital improvement program would be for the coming year. And then, but we actually had a discussion about the Ross Common before that meeting. So that would probably be the earliest we could have this kind of discussion. So I just kind of want to manage your expectations while you're all here, because I know that, Matt, you aren't in our weekly, and Terry in the weekly meetings that I have with the mayor and the mayor pro tem, and I don't want you to be disappointed, but we have other priorities for these next couple of months, and things that the Public Works Director, he and his staff are absolutely vital to this discussion. So
the item is basically to agendize it so we can get input from the community and formulate what we would like done. So the direction would be ideally that by the capital projects, by next spring, it's something that we have a budget and we can either approve it or not for that meeting. But what I want to agendize is getting the input, because there's a bunch of different groups that have approached me particularly to say that they want to do something, and coordinating all those groups and taking in their input, and then having the council be able to discuss that openly, what they like, what they don't like. That's what the agenda item's for. What actually transpires from after that would then, go forward. But it's really a session I don't think there needs to be a lot of work done on the staff's part of writing a report before the meeting. It's more a meeting to let the public come in and talk about the options that they would like to see, because there's a bunch of different groups and constituents that use the common constantly.
Okay, so I'm sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
Would that be a special meeting?
It could be a regular meeting. I think.
Yeah, it's just an agenda item.
I agree it should be talked about sooner. I appreciate that there are a lot of things on our agendas, but we're getting reports of people being hurt on the field. Why not, talk about it, and then we can decide based on time and budget priorities how we go about it, but at least see where things stand. That's what I would support.
And just so you know, that when you have that kind of agenda item without there being a framework for council discussion and staff input, you have a lot of people that come to the meeting that in your setting, they are going to be expecting, if you invite people to come in and say, what do you want to do about the Ross Common? You're setting the expectation that they're going to get some action. And I think you're going to have some very disappointed, frustrated people when they leave here. I think that there's other ways that we can get input without anyways, I can talk with the mayor and the mayor pro tem about it. But just to, you have November meeting, you have December, you have two very large agendas already for those two meetings. And so I don't see this as something, we're not going to be able to bring this back until after the new year.
Yeah, and that's fine. I'm sorry. Just to be clear, what I'm saying is you can easily meet with RPOA. You guys can do this all without us. I'm saying hopefully you just, when it comes here, there's some formulation of what the input you took from these groups, and they've reached out to you, you know who they are, and then you're just coming back and saying, hey, these are some of the options that the council could consider. The reason I want to bring this way is that there's just so many different groups and ideas, and I'm expecting that you would meet with them on the side, but that we could come up with what I'm envisioning as a larger project. Because to this date, we've just done a lot of piecemeal fixes, and I think that unfortunately just hasn't been enough. And we're seeing a lot of repeat sort of complaints about what's going on. So there hasn't been the will to do a larger project, and that's what I'm advocating, because there's so many now constituents willing to sort of help us with either money or their time and resources. So it's really gather the information. I'm not saying I have a free-for-all workshop, but meet with the groups, come back to us in January whenever it works, and we just have a discussion, because the council would want to hear what the options are and what you guys have discovered through your meetings with these groups.
So you're asking staff to do some work?
Yes, some preliminary meetings with these constituents and groups, and then just so I've spoken to Anthony, for example, on the irrigation system, and he has thoughts about it. So and I'm sure our public works director has thoughts, but I think that maybe last year there just wasn't a willingness to want to do something bigger, and so we were all looking at patchwork. Let's fix the drain. Let's fix this. But since that point, we've had a lot of difficult issues with the field. So I think times are changing, and maybe the council's aptitude is changing. So let's have it as an agenda item to talk about. And we're not trying to tax you. It's like, this is an item. When we do this item, maybe it's not next year, maybe it's the year after, but we at least have a framework that we're working off of to try to do a larger project.
Maybe when you meet with the mayor and the mayor pro tem, you could take a look at this and figure out what makes the most sense to do.
Sure.
Yeah, I kind of hesitate to have a discussion without having some concrete numbers about what this could potentially cost, which would entail, a different kind of staff work than what Matt is contemplating. Because we really can't have a hypothetical discussion without knowing, what the whole shebang would cost. Because our main priority right now, as we said when we addressed this issue prior, is redoing the facilities at the Civic Center. So, but yeah, the mayor and the mayor pro tem can work with the town manager and figure out the best avenue to bring this forward.
Well, the avenue, procedure-wise, there are two people who've asked to put it on the agenda, so I think that's the avenue. And then I think it just has to be very clear what that agenda item is going to look like.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah, and just for numbers, I think we got an article that was sent to us from San Anselmo did their Memorial Park for $600,000. Now, I don't know.
That was like 5 years ago. Yeah.
I understand, but at least it's a data point. And I have a feeling, I know that Rich and Elena had gone out there and talked to people. We've gotten some data points. So again, we want to agendize it. It's worth discussing. So I don't know why we're sort of debating it right now. Let's bring it forward. You guys are all professionals. You guys know how to do this. I hear you loud and clear. There's a lot of stuff going on. Let's just try to find a way to slot this in. And if you need my assistance in getting these groups together, I'm happy to help.
And what I'll do is tomorrow I'll send you the lengthy staff report that was prepared and presented to the council less than a year ago. So you have information about the project that our public works director indicated was what would take to really resolve, literally getting down to the roots of the issue of the Ross Common. And I'll send that to you because that information already exists. And then I'll work with the mayor and the mayor pro tem to talk about scheduling, but won't be able to do it until, because there's only 2 meetings left this year, to do it until next spring.
Yeah, and I
Late
just
winter,
wanted to
spring.
add the baseball people, like they wanted to redo which is not included obviously in the report from last year.
They want what?
The RVLL, they are interested in helping in this bigger project. So that wasn't really contemplated, I think, with the plan that Rich brought forward last year. So there's some things different. I think actually it's good we take time, because I think to gather these people and figure it out, it's going to take time. So it doesn't need to be rushed. I just think it's worthy of us spending some time on.
And Krista, maybe it's something that Maureen could spearhead instead of falling on your shoulders right now.
Thanks. I mean, we'll certainly do it. She has a priority with our rec programs, but we'll certainly see what we can do. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, and the last thing is the post office table in November. I'm going to put myself down for that. And thank you, Terry and Elizabeth, for covering for me today. And I think we can, meeting evaluation, number 15. Comments?
I just want to say, I thought it was a really good meeting. I know it was very technical, and I appreciated staff's and the engagement and helping us learn how these things work. And I'm sorry it's so late in New York, Julie, but I thought it was a very good meeting.
Terry, I can't hear you.
I know you can. Now you can.
Thank you.
I was going to say, we are all sending you good thoughts. This has been hard.
Thank you, Terry. I really appreciate it. It has been extraordinary. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I hope to see you in person at the November meeting, if not before. Good night.